At 11:51 p.m., my phone lit up the way truth does, sharp, merciless. A message from my mother: "We've agreed you're no longer part of the family. Don't come to any gatherings. No call, no hesitation." Just a digital exile. Seconds later, my sister hearted the message like betrayal was a team sport. I didn't cry. I didn't ask why. I just opened my laptop, pulled up every bill, every account, every payment I'd made for them, and started clicking cancel. By 12:03 a.m., their world started flickering in the dark. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me, where are you listening from so I know I'm not the only one who's ever had to turn the lights off on family. When the screen went dark, the silence in my apartment felt heavier than the city outside. The hum of the fridge, the faint tick of the wall clock, it all sounded like witnesses. I sat there, hand still on the keyboard, heart steady in a way that scared me. Anger wasn't loud this time. It was clinical. For years, I'd been the silent investor in their version of family. The mortgage that never defaulted my name, the car insurance that somehow renewed itself, my account. Every late bill, every emergency, every tearful phone call that began with, "We just need a little help this month." I'd covered it. I told myself it was love, responsibility, the right thing to do. Now I realized it had been a subscription with me footing the bill. I looked around my apartment. Everything was neat labeled, color-coded, my coping mechanism after a childhood spent in chaos. I'd built order out of noise. But tonight, the order turned against me. Every neatly filed receipt, every automatic payment felt like a paper trail of my own gullibility. I used to think love was endurance, that if I stayed quiet and kept giving, they'd eventually see I was worth keeping. My mother had raised me on guilt like it was a family recipe, small portions served often. My sister Kayla was the golden child, loud, charming, allergic to consequences. Dad, he'd learned to survive by staying out of the blast radius. I'd learned to survive by making sure there wasn't one. I remember the first time I paid their property tax. They were on the edge of foreclosure, voices cracking over the phone. I was 26, barely paying my own rent, but I wired the money without hesitation. Mom called me her guardian angel. I believed her. Then came the utilities, the car, Kayla's college tuition, $18,000 a year, 3 years straight. Funny how angels always end up footing the bill in hell. I rubbed my eyes trying to summon regret, but there was only clarity. This wasn't a breakdown, it was a balance sheet. I wasn't losing a family, I was collecting evidence. The last time I'd seen them in person was at a Sunday dinner 6 months ago. Mom had corrected my posture in front of everyone. Kayla had bragged about her upcoming business trip that I knew was a week at a beach resort. Dad had made a joke about how I was too serious to keep a man. I'd smiled past the mashed potatoes and swallowed the truth. That dinner table had been a courtroom. I just hadn't realized I was on trial. Now, sitting in the quiet glow of my laptop, I opened a new spreadsheet. Date, amount, reason, proof. My fingers moved like they already knew the path. One column at a time, I was reclaiming years of unpaid respect. Outside, the city lights blinked through my window like Morse code. Somewhere out there, my family was sleeping soundly, believing I'd finally accepted my exile. They had no idea I was just getting started. By morning, my phone was a museum of missed calls. Dad, Mom, Kayla, each name glowing like a relic of something that used to matter. I didn't answer a single one. The silence between us had weight now. It was proof. The first message that came through wasn't even from my mother. It was from Kayla. "You're overreacting." Mom didn't mean it that way. "Can we just talk?" As if the word hadn't been poisoned years ago. I read it once, then again, and realized there wasn't a single apology in it, just control wrapped in concern. I deleted it and went back to my spreadsheet. Each line I filled was a memory turned into math, the exact day I'd covered Kayla's tuition. The overdraft fees from when Dad borrowed my card for gas the month. I'd skipped my own rent to pay their property taxes. Every dollar was a story, and every story ended the same way, with me cleaning up their chaos. At 9:00 a.m., Mom finally sent an email. No greeting, no apology, just, "We need to talk about what you've done. You've created a mess. Call us immediately." Not a word about what she'd said the night before. No mention of the exile, just a demand to resume my role fixer buffer peacekeeper. For the first time I saw it clearly, the family I thought I was saving had never wanted saving. They wanted a secretary. I typed back, "I'm busy reconciling accounts, you should do the same." Then hit send. The phone rang instantly. I let it buzz until it stopped. By noon, the panic started spreading. A text from Dad, "Can you please explain what's going on with the utilities? Your mother's losing it." Another from Kayla, "Why are you doing this? You're ruining everything, ruining everything." As if my silence was the crime, not their betrayal. I opened my banking app, scrolled through years of transactions, and felt something shift. The guilt that had been tattooed into my bones began to fade. It wasn't anger now, it was precision. Cold, deliberate, focused. By 300 p.m., they'd tried every tactic, anger pleading nostalgia. "I'll help you continue this story in the same raw, visceral style. Let me write the next 6,000 characters for you to review." By 3:00 p.m., they'd tried every tactic, anger pleading nostalgia. Kayla sent a photo of us as kids, both grinning gap-toothed in front of a Christmas tree. The caption read, "Remember when we were a real family?" I stared at that photo for longer than I should have. We looked happy, we probably were, but happiness at 8 years old doesn't pay the mortgage at 32. I saved the photo to a folder labeled evidence and kept working. At 4:17 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me this was different. "Hello," a woman's voice, professional, clipped. "Is this regarding the Reynolds account?" "This is Patricia from Citizens Bank, my mother's bank. I'm calling about a returned payment on the mortgage. We have you listed as—" "I'm not listed as anything anymore," I said, cutting her off. "You'll need to speak with the account holder directly." There was a pause, papers rustling. "Ma'am, according to our records, you've been making payments on this account for the last 6 years. We just need to verify." "That's correct, past tense. You won't be receiving any more payments from me. Update your records accordingly." I hung up before she could respond. The thing about burning bridges is that everyone acts shocked when you light the match. But nobody ever asks how long you stood on that bridge in the cold, waiting for someone to meet you halfway. By 5:00 p.m., I'd received another email from my mother. This one longer, more calculated. She'd switched tactics. "Sweetie, I think there's been a terrible misunderstanding. What I meant last night was that we need some space to work through some family issues. I never meant you weren't part of the family. You're overreacting to a simple miscommunication. We love you. Please call so we can fix this." I read it 3 times, looking for the apology that never came, the acknowledgement that never surfaced, just gaslighting dressed up in mother's intuition. I replied with a single line, "Screenshot attached," and I sent her the exact message she'd sent at 11:51 p.m. the night before, word for word. Then I added, "There's no misunderstanding. There's just documentation." The response came in under 2 minutes, all caps, "You are being cruel and vindictive after everything we've done for you." Everything they'd done for me. I actually laughed out loud, the sound sharp and unfamiliar in my quiet apartment. I opened a new document and started typing. Not for them, for me. A list of everything they've done for me. 1. Birth non-negotiable. 2. Childhood, standard issue, with modifications for emotional neglect. 3. Expectations, numerous, detailed, non-refundable. 4. Guilt, industrial quantities, applied daily. 5. Disappointment, their specialty, my inheritance. I saved it as receipt doc and closed my laptop. That evening, I did something I hadn't done in years. I ordered takeout from the expensive Thai place, the one with the duck curry that cost $28. I ate it slowly on my couch, watching the city lights multiply as the sun set. Every bite tasted like freedom. Nobody called to interrupt. Nobody needed anything. For the first time in longer than I could remember, dinner was just dinner. Around 8:00 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text from an aunt I barely knew. Linda, my mom's younger sister. Your mother told me what you did. Family sticks together through hard times. You should be ashamed. The audacity of strangers with opinions. I typed back, Linda, when's the last time you paid someone else's mortgage? I'll wait. She didn't respond. But then another text came through. This one from my cousin Marcus, Linda's son. Hey, don't know the full story, but my mom's being dramatic. You good? I stared at those 3 words. You good? When was the last time someone asked me that without wanting something in return? I typed, getting there, thanks for asking. He sent back a thumbs up. Small thing, but it mattered. By 9:00 p.m., the call I'd been waiting for finally came. Dad, I answered on the 4th ring. Hey, kiddo. His voice was careful, like he was defusing a bomb. Your mom's pretty upset. I know. She says you cut off all the accounts. I did. Silence. Then quieter. Why? That question, that single word. It wasn't accusatory, it was genuine. And somehow that made it worse. Dad, did you read what she sent me last night? I did. And, another pause, she was angry, you know how she gets. Right. So when she's angry, I stop being her daughter. But when the mortgage is due, I'm family again. That's how this works. I heard him exhale. 40 years of marriage had taught him when to retreat. It's complicated, honey. No, Dad, it's actually very simple. She exiled me, I'm just respecting her wishes. You're making this harder than it needs to be. And there it was. The script he always read from, peace at any price. My compliance was the currency. I'm making it exactly as hard as it needs to be, for once. Your mother loves you, she just... Dad, don't. Please don't do the thing where you explain her away. I've heard it my whole life. She's stressed. She's tired, she didn't mean it. At some point, you have to mean what you say, she meant it. And I believe her. His voice cracked slightly. What do you want us to do? It was the first honest question I'd heard from him in years. I want you to figure out your own bills. I want Kayla to pay for her own life, and I want Mom to understand that I'm not a bank account with a pulse. That's not fair. You're right, it's not. None of this is fair. But it's done. I hung up before he could argue, before he could deploy the guilt that had always worked before. My hands were shaking, but my breathing was steady. Growth, I'd learned, doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it feels like falling. Sometimes it feels like fury. That night, I pulled out a journal I'd bought years ago but never used. The first page was blank, intimidating in its possibility. I wrote the date at the top. Then, in careful letters, day 1 of not being sorry. 12:33. I filled 3 pages that night. Not with anger, though there was plenty of that, but with facts, timelines, the architecture of my own erasure. I wrote about the time I'd missed my best friend's wedding because Mom had a crisis that turned out to be wanting help rearranging furniture. The promotion I'd turned down because it required relocating, and family needs you here. The relationships that withered because I was always one emergency away from canceling plans. I wrote until my hand cramped, until the words looked like evidence instead of memories. Around midnight, Kayla called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. What? Not a question, a statement. Jesus, you're really doing this. Her voice was high, tight, the sound of someone used to getting their way. Doing what exactly? Don't play dumb. You know what? Mom's crying. Dad's going through old bills. This is insane. Insane is $43,000, Kayla. Silence. What? That's how much I've given you, not the family, you. Specifically, tuition, rent deposits, that car you totaled, the credit card debt you swore was a one-time thing. $43,000 over 6 years. And you hearted Mom's message like it was a joke. I didn't think she was serious. But you didn't ask, you didn't text me to check. You just assumed it was fine to watch me get erased. Her breathing changed, defensive. You're twisting this, we were all upset that night, you know how family dinners get. Right. So upset you couldn't send a single text saying, hey, that was harsh, or are you okay? Nothing, radio silence, until the money stopped. That's not fair. Everyone kept using that word, fair. As if fairness had ever been part of the equation. You want to talk about fair? Let's talk about how I worked 2 jobs while you found yourself in Europe for 8 months. Let's talk about how Mom introduced you as the successful one, at her book club, while I was literally paying for the roof over her head. Fair is a concept for people who have never been the designated giver. I didn't ask you to do any of that, Kayla's voice cracked. You just did it. You always do it. That's your thing, my thing, martyrdom as personality trait. I sat with that for a second, feeling the truth of it. You're right, I did, but here's the difference, Kayla. You never once said thank you, not really. You said you're the best and I owe you, but you never actually meant it. Because if you did, you wouldn't have hearted that message. I'm sorry, okay? Is that what you want to hear? No, because you're not sorry. You're sorry you're uncomfortable. There's a difference. I heard her tell someone in the background that she'd be right there. Probably her boyfriend, the one who thought roughing it meant staying at a 3-star hotel. Look, I have to go. Can we fix this like adults? Adults pay their own bills, Kayla. Try it, I hung up. The next morning, Sunday, I woke up to 17 missed calls. I made coffee slowly, deliberately. The French press I'd bought myself for my birthday last year, the good beans from the farmer's market. I sat by the window and watched the city wake up, everyone rushing somewhere important. For the first time in years, I had nowhere to be. No family obligation, no emergency to solve, just coffee and silence and the strange luxury of my own company. At 10:00 a.m., my phone rang again. This time, a number I didn't recognize but with my hometown area code. I answered. Is this Sarah Reynolds? A man's voice, older, cautious. Who's asking? This is Robert Chen, I'm a financial advisor. Your mother hired me to help mediate this situation. I almost laughed. She'd hired someone. With what money, I wanted to ask, but I already knew. She'd found some angle, some credit card I hadn't canceled yet. Mr. Chen, I appreciate the call, but there's nothing to mediate. This isn't a negotiation. Ms. Reynolds, I understand emotions are high, but from a practical standpoint, there are shared financial obligations that need to be addressed. Cutting off funding without notice creates legal complications. Legal complications. I set my coffee down. Let me save you some time. Every payment I made was a gift, documented as such. No contracts, no agreements, no legal obligations. I was helping family, now I'm not. There's nothing to litigate. Your mother mentioned there were informal agreements. Informal agreements enforced by guilt aren't legally binding, Mr. Chen, and I'm done being bound by guilt. If she wants to hire lawyers to explore her options, that's her choice. My lawyer would love the billable hours. I didn't have a lawyer, but he didn't need to know that. There was a pause. Ms. Reynolds, may I speak off the record? Sure. I've been doing this for 32 years. I've seen a lot of family financial disputes, usually over inheritance or business partnerships. This is different. Different how? Usually the person holding the purse strings is trying to keep control. You're doing the opposite. You're walking away clean. That takes a particular kind of strength. His voice softened. Or a particular kind of damage. Maybe both. For what it's worth, your records are immaculate. Every transaction documented, every amount accounted for. You've been preparing for this whether you knew it or not. Something in my chest tightened. I wasn't preparing. I was just trying to keep track. Sometimes they're the same thing. Good luck, Ms. Reynolds. He hung up before I could respond. I sat there for a long time, staring at my phone. He was right. I had been preparing. Every receipt saved, every email kept, every text message screenshot. I'd been building a lifeboat while pretending I wasn't on a sinking ship. By Monday morning, I'd made a decision. I took a personal day from work, first one in 2 years, and went to see a therapist. Not because I felt guilty, not because I wanted to reconcile, but because I needed to understand how I'd let it get this far. Dr. Morrison was in her 50s, with gray hair she didn't bother to dye, and glasses that kept sliding down her nose. She listened to my story without interrupting, occasionally taking notes. When I finished, she set her pen down and looked at me directly. How do you feel right now? Honest answer, always. I feel relief, and that makes me feel like a monster. Why? Because they're struggling, because I could help. Because family is supposed to stick together. Says who? The question caught me off guard. Says everyone, society, the Bible. Sarah, let me ask you something. If a friend treated you the way your family has, would you still be friends with them? I started to answer, then stopped. No, why not? Because friends don't use you. They don't erase you when it's convenient and summon you when they need something. That's not friendship. But it's family. Her expression didn't change, but I felt the weight of the question. That's different. Is it? Or have you just been told it is? I spent the rest of that session crying, not sad crying, the kind that happens when something locked inside finally breaks open. She didn't try to fix me or tell me what to do. She just handed me tissues and waited. At the end, she said something that stayed with me. Healing isn't about them understanding. It's about you understanding that you deserve better, even from family, especially from family. I left her office feeling lighter and heavier at the same time. Like I'd set down a weight I didn't know I was carrying, only to realize how tired I was from carrying it. I walked to a park nearby and sat on a bench watching strangers live their lives. A couple arguing about where to eat, a kid learning to ride a bike, an old man feeding pigeons like it was his job, normal people doing normal things. None of them knew I was in the middle of a war. That's the thing about family trauma, it's invisible until you bleed out. That evening, I got a text from Marcus again. My mom won't shut up about you. Want to grab coffee and give me the real story? I hesitated, then typed back, tomorrow, 3 p.m. The place on 5th with the good scones. Deal. Tuesday afternoon, I met Marcus at Provisions, a coffee shop that took itself too seriously but made excellent lattes. He was already there, tall and lanky with the kind of beard that suggested he'd forgotten to shave for a month. Sarah Reynolds, the family villain. He grinned as I sat down. Apparently, so what you actually do, rob them, burn the house down. Worse, I stopped paying their bills. His eyebrows went up. Wait, you were paying their bills? For 6 years. I gave him the condensed version. The mortgage, the utilities, Kayla's everything, the message, the cutoff. He listened without interrupting, his expression shifting from amused to concerned to something that looked like anger. When I finished, he sat back and shook his head. Jesus Christ. And they're mad at you. According to the family group chat I'm no longer part of, I'm vindictive, cruel, and suffering from some kind of mental breakdown. Are you suffering from a breakdown? I thought about it. No, I think I'm having a breakthrough. He laughed, sharp and genuine. Good, about time someone in this family had boundaries. My mom's been bleeding my dad dry for years with her business ideas. Last one was a pyramid scheme for essential oils. Ouch. Yeah, he finally cut her off last year. She told everyone he was having an affair. Turns out financial independence looks a lot like betrayal to certain people. We talked for 2 hours. About family, about money, about the specific kind of exhaustion that comes from being related to people who confuse love with leverage. When we finally left, he hugged me. For what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. It's brutal but right. Thanks, Marcus. Also, block my mom's number. She's organizing some kind of intervention. I groaned. Seriously, dead serious, she's calling it a circle of healing. There's a group text and everything. Oh my God, I know. I'm supposed to bring organic snacks. That night, I blocked Linda's number and 17 others who'd suddenly developed opinions about my life. The family tree was getting smaller, but the air felt cleaner. Wednesday came and went quietly. No calls, no texts, no emergency financial advisors. I started to wonder if maybe they'd given up. Then Thursday morning, the email arrived. Subject line, final notice. I opened it. Sarah, this is your last chance to make this right. We've consulted with our attorney and have been advised. We have grounds for a lawsuit based on financial commitments you made. You presented yourself as financially responsible for certain obligations, and we relied on that. If you do not resume payments by end of business Friday, we will have no choice but to pursue legal action. We didn't want it to come to this, but you've left us no option. Mom, I read it twice. Then I forwarded it to my own email with the subject line, Exhibit A, extortion. Then I replied, Dear Mom, I've also consulted with an attorney. I hadn't, but I would. Any payments I made were gifts, documented as such for tax purposes. There were no contracts, no written agreements, no legal obligations. If you choose to pursue legal action, please be aware that all communication, including the message exiling me from the family, will become part of the public record. I'll also be filing a countersuit for emotional distress and harassment. Balls in your court. Sarah P.S. I'm not paying your lawyer either. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. My hands were shaking, but my spine was steel. The thing about calling a bluff is that you have to be willing to lose everything. I was. Friday came with the kind of silence that feels like victory. No response to my email. No threats, no calls, no legal papers delivered to my door. Just quiet. I went to work for the first time that week and found myself actually focused, actually present. My coworker Janet asked if I'd done something different with my hair. You look lighter, she said. I feel lighter, I told her and meant it. At lunch, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went to a bookstore and browsed without checking my phone every 5 minutes. I bought 3 novels I'd been meaning to read and a journal with a dark blue cover. On the first page I wrote, things I'm allowed to want. Then I made a list, small things. A vacation without guilt. Dinner reservations I didn't have to cancel. Sunday mornings that belonged to me. The ability to say no without a full legal defense prepared. A family that saw me as a person, not a resource. That last one I stared at for a long time before crossing it out. Not because I didn't want it, but because I was starting to understand that some things you can't have, and wanting them anyway just keeps you trapped. Sometimes love means letting go of people who refuse to hold you right. When I got home that evening, there was a letter taped to my door. Handwritten, my father's careful script. I recognized it from birthday cards and grocery lists from my childhood. I took it inside, made tea, and sat in the chair by the window before opening it. Sarah, I'm writing this by hand because your mother monitors my email, and I need you to hear this from just me. You were right, about all of it. I've spent 30 years keeping the peace, thinking that was the same as keeping the family together. But peace bought with your silence and your money isn't real peace. It's just quiet oppression. Your mother is scared right now, not of losing you, though she should be, but of losing control. She's built her whole identity around being needed, being central, being the sun everyone orbits. You stepping away doesn't just remove financial support, it removes her power, and she doesn't know who she is without it. Kayla called me crying yesterday, not about the money, surprisingly. About the fact that you were right. She said she counted up everything you'd done for her and realized she'd never once asked how you were. Not really. She's ashamed, and shame in our family translates to anger because we've never learned to sit with difficult feelings. I'm not asking you to come back. I'm not asking you to forgive us. I'm just asking that you know at least one person sees what you did. You didn't abandon your family. You freed yourself from people who'd already abandoned you emotionally years ago. We just didn't realize it because you were still showing up, still paying, still smiling through the damage. I've opened my own bank account. Your mother doesn't know yet. I'm 73 years old, and I'm finally learning what you figured out at 32. That love shouldn't cost you your selfhood. I'm sorry I didn't teach you that sooner. I'm sorry I taught you the opposite. You deserved better from us. You deserved better from me. I love you. I'm proud of you. And I understand if you never want to see me again. Dad, I read it 3 times, tears falling onto the paper, smudging the ink. This was what I'd needed. Not groveling or promises to change, just acknowledgement, just truth. I took out my phone and typed, Dad, thank you for this. I'm not ready yet, but someday maybe we can grab coffee, just us. I love you too. I didn't send it to the family group chat. I didn't send it to his usual number. I sent it to his old work email, the one only he checked. A private conversation, away from surveillance. He replied within an hour. I'd like that very much. The following Monday, I got a text from an unknown number. This is Kayla. I'm using a new phone. Mom took my old one because she thinks I'm conspiring with you. Maybe I am. Can we talk? No pressure, no agenda, just talk. I looked at that message for a long time. The thing about boundaries is they're not walls. They're doors you get to control. I could let her in a crack, see what happened. Coffee, public place, you pay for your own. Deal. Saturday, 11 a.m., provisions. I'll be there. Saturday morning felt like walking into an ambush, even though I'd chosen the location. Kayla was already at a corner table, looking smaller than I remembered. She'd cut her hair short, dyed it dark. She looked up when I walked in and her expression cracked. Hi. I sat down across from her, keeping my bag in my lap, flight ready. I ordered you a latte, oat milk, extra shot, your usual. She pushed the cup toward me. I paid for it already. With my money from my job. You got a job. 3 weeks ago, receptionist at a dental office. It's not glamorous, but it's mine. She twisted her hands together. I'm also paying Dad back. $50 a month. It'll take forever, but I'm doing it. I picked up the latte but didn't drink it yet. Why? Because you were right. Because I'm 28 years old and I've been a child my entire life. Because when you left, I had to look at who I was without you cleaning up after me, and I hated what I saw. Her voice broke. I'm so sorry, Sarah. Not because Mom told me to be, because I finally understand what I took from you. Your 20s, your peace. Your ability to trust that people could love you without wanting something. You hearted that message. I know. She wiped her eyes roughly. I was on my phone, half paying attention, and I just reacted. I didn't think. I never think. That's been my whole life, just coasting on your parachute. And when you finally pulled it, I realized I never learned to fly. So what now? I asked. Now I'm learning. Therapy twice a week. Budgeting apps. Saying no to Mom when she tries to make me the go-between. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm just asking if maybe, someday, we could try being sisters instead of whatever dysfunction we were before. I sipped my latte. It was perfect, made exactly the way I liked it. She'd remembered. Such a small thing, but it landed differently than grand gestures ever had. I'm not ready to go back to how things were. I don't want to go back, Kayla said quickly. That version of us was broken. I want to build something new, something where I actually show up for you. Where you don't have to wonder if I love you or just love what you provide. That's going to take time. I have time. I'm not going anywhere. She pulled out her phone and showed me a spreadsheet. Look, I'm tracking every dollar now, every shift I work, every bill I pay myself. I even started a savings account. It has $63 in it, but it's mine. I felt something in my chest shift. Not forgiveness, not yet, but possibility. Okay. We can try, slowly, coffee dates. Texts that aren't about emergencies. You being a person I choose to know, not just someone I'm obligated to support. Kayla nodded, crying openly now. That's more than I deserve. Probably. But I'm not doing it for what you deserve. I'm doing it because I miss having a sister. The real version, not the performance. We talked for 2 hours. Really talked. About her childhood envy of how together I seemed. About how Mom pitted us against each other, using me as the standard Kayla could never meet, and using Kayla as the proof I was too rigid. About how we'd both been used differently, but damaged similarly. When we left, she hugged me and whispered, "Thank you for not giving up on me completely." "Thank you for finally showing up," I said back. Over the next few months, things rearranged themselves into a new shape. Dad and I met for breakfast once a month. He'd left Mom, not dramatically, just quietly moved into a condo near the lake and started taking watercolor classes. "I'm 73 years old and painting trees," he told me once. I've never been happier. Kayla and I built something careful and honest. She never asked for money. I never offered unless she specifically needed it, and then we treated it like a loan with actual terms. She paid me back every time. Mom, I heard, was furious. She tried to rally the extended family, but most of them were exhausted by her drama. Aunt Linda stopped calling after Marcus told her exactly where she could shove her opinions. Mom eventually moved in with her sister in Florida, where she could be the martyr she'd always wanted to be, with a fresh audience who didn't know the real story. I didn't feel victorious about it. I just felt free. 1 year later, I was sitting in my apartment, the same apartment, but it felt different now. Lighter. Mine. I'd painted the walls a soft gray blue. Bought plants that I actually kept alive. Started dating someone who thought my boundaries were attractive, not inconvenient. I pulled out that dark blue journal and flipped to the first page. Things I'm allowed to want. Under it, I added a new list. Things I've learned. 1, love without reciprocity is just slow-motion self-destruction. 2, family is a verb, not a noun. It's what people do, not what they're called. 3, walking away isn't the same as giving up. Sometimes it's the only way to save yourself, for you can't set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Eventually, you'll burn down too. 5, the people who love you won't make you choose between your well-being and their approval. 6, I am not responsible for other people's emotional regulation. 7. No is a complete sentence. 8, I am allowed to take up space without apologizing for it. 9, peace is better than performance. 10, I am enough. I was always enough. I closed the journal and looked out the window at the city lights. Somewhere out there, people were having the same fight I'd had. Wondering if they were wrong for wanting more, for expecting better, for finally saying enough. I hoped they found their way out too. I hoped they learned what I did, that the family you choose, including the relationship you choose with yourself, matters more than the family you're born into. My phone buzzed, a text from Kayla. Dinner this week, my treat. Want to tell you about this guy I met who actually has a job and emotional intelligence. Wild, right? I smiled and typed back. Thursday, and yes, that is wild. Proud of you? Another text, this time from Dad. Finished my first painting. It's terrible, but it's mine. Reminds me of you somehow. And one more from Marcus. Family reunion this summer. You're coming, non-negotiable. We're starting a new tradition, one without toxic people and with good wine. I looked at those messages and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time, not obligation. Not guilt, not the weight of other people's expectations, just love, the real kind, the kind that shows up without conditions, the kind that doesn't exile you when you stop being useful. I used to think family was about endurance, about how much you could take before breaking. Now I know it's about choice, about building something worth keeping with people who actually value you. And about having the courage to walk away from anything less. The lights in my apartment reflected in the window, turning the glass into a mirror. I looked at my reflection and barely recognized the person staring back. She looked rested, confident, free. She looked like someone who'd finally learned that the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with yourself. And she looked like someone who'd survived the hardest thing you can do, choosing yourself over the people who taught you that you didn't matter. That night, I slept soundly. No emergency calls. No guilt-induced insomnia. No wondering if I'd done the right thing, because I had. I'd done the only thing, I'd saved myself. And in doing so, I'd given my family the opportunity to save themselves too. Whether they took it or not wasn't my responsibility anymore. The story doesn't end with a perfect reconciliation. It ends with something better, boundaries, peace, and the knowledge that I'm worth more than what I can provide. That's not a fairy tale ending, it's a real one. And real, I've learned, is always better than perfect.